Hello, Charlotte.
Hey, Sally.
How the heck are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Great.
I am excited about our second What the Heck video chat.
Me too. The last one had so many comments. Thank you all.
Thank you all, nobody who commented. All right. Well, today we're talking about what happens for nonprofits when they decide to select new technology, maybe through an RFP process, a request for proposals. And this was sparked by a conversation that you had with someone who said, ever since the pandemic hit and everything shut down, that nonprofits, many of them, have been sort of like on hold or what the heck in terms of making these big decisions, but it's possible in the fall that people might need to kick it up into higher gear for digital tool selection. Is that about right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it was an interesting conversation with a couple of folks about how, I think with the pandemic, everybody kind of froze and took a pause and figured like, how are we going to deal with staff being remote and our fundraising goals and our events were virtual. They were supposed to happen in person. Now they're virtual. Kind of some big, immediate decisions to factor in for. Some are kind of taking a pause, and then, unfortunately, we know that we're in this for the long haul, and it might be time that organizations have to consider what technology they are invested in, and does that mean further investments or changes, and now could be the time to do it.
Could be. All right. So I think here's a question. If an organization is thinking about new technology, what should they be thinking about first before they even open up a document and type in RFP?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's even more important given the context that we just had, because I think it's really important to not get bogged down in the nitty gritty of details, like what buttons do. Like, it's more taking a step back and looking at your big picture needs and objectives. So, and it's really important during the early stages of pre-RFP consideration discussions to take an objective view of what are your technology needs, what are your staffing needs, are there certain weaknesses, and what are, and strengths that you have. One way to do that is to hire an outside consultant like us. But if not, if that's not in the cards, if there at least is a team of people who can help you kind of see the forest from the trees and ask the right questions, and focus more on what your desired outcomes are from the technology and use that to match them up against your goals and growth. So, for example, there's a big buzz marketing automation, digital technology. Well, that's great. You say you want that, but what is it that you need that to do? Is it that you want, like, what's the business reason behind it? Is it you want your staff to be able to send emails quicker? Is it that you want your supporters to hear from you based on, desired preferences, things like that? Then maybe that is a feature and functionality that you need to pursue. So I think after you've kind of taken this big picture objective view, it may help you better understand and answer if you need to do an RFP at all. So I guess I'll ask you, Sally. What do you think about a pre-RFP assessment? So a specific assessment, even before you get into the RFP, a little bit more than what I've just discussed. Like, okay, let's talk about this. Is it really like an actual assessment written, that you write down before you get into the RFP process? Do you think it's worth it? Is it necessary? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I want to lobby for calling this period of time before you write your RFP. Let's call it the rfPRE, because I keep calling it pre-RFP, and my brain really wants to have a catchy name for it. So how about that? I think before you embark on any process like this, you need to know what you have. And the thing about institutions is that people there have institutional memory. So you might have a whole bunch of technology that somebody bought at one time or another, that you bought for a specific need, and maybe you didn't end up using it for that need, or you only use one specific little piece of it, but there's more you could. So it really is a good idea, especially if you've had staff turnover and you've lost some of your institutional memory. Like, what do we have? What is it supposed to do? What are we using it for? And how well are we using it? And I think that's a really instructive step, because if the outcome is we actually have everything we need, we just need to use it better, you can save yourself a lot of time and aggravation if you don't have to go through an RFP process. And if you end up that you do have to go through an RFP process, you're going to have a lot of like knowledge about your systems and what you need, why you started using things the way that you did. And you know, that'll give you a much better idea when you're shopping for something new about what features and functionality that you should prioritize. So I think it's a crucial step, might even be more valuable than the RFP process itself. So big fan here of rfPRE. All right, but let's say, Charlotte, embark on this thought journey with me. Let's say you complete this process and yes, your technology is not doing what you need it to do and you need to prep better for the fall. So you need a new digital solution or a new CRM or a new point solution. Can you give me or anyone who's watching this video some tips for how to create a successful RFP?
Sure. Well, I think that throughout the RFP process, it's most important to consider your people. The technology is only as good as the people, the staff who are using it. So it's really important, I think, as early on and all throughout and after, to consider your staff needs when you're doing an RFP. We'd also recommend, or I'd recommend, not getting bogged down in a list of the discrete requirements, that you need a yes/no list for. So instead, understand what the main functionality is that you need to fulfill. So kind of make a list of what are the key things. And then, even adding to that, like a little vision statement for what are the outcomes you would like this function to fulfill at your nonprofit. So again, you can kind of, I think it's really, again, going back to the pre-RFP assessment and saying, what are those big, key requirements and outcomes that we need for a new technology? Another thing that we'd really recommend is that you should pay attention to the help documentation, availability of support, who's going to be supporting you at the vendor. So just don't skimp on these kind of ease of use requirements for your staff. And I think along those lines, it's important to consider, the ability of your staff. Can everybody use this, or will it just be really highly skilled people? So then are you going to have to consider adding new people to your team? So again, kind of going back to it's about the people throughout this process. So question for you, Sally. So much as obviously we've talked about it changed, in every way in these past few months. So I'm curious, what technologies do you think need to be in a nonprofit marketer or fundraiser's forefront right now? What are some of the main things that they should be considering and make sure that they have?
Well, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think that, especially organizations that are looking to the fall when the United States might be still kind of curtailed with face-to-face fundraising and advocacy activities, I think automation is probably the biggest win I can think of. And here's why. Any task that is repetitive and that helps you connect with supporters and generate data, but that takes a human to do it, if you're sending the same message, like a welcome message or specific content based on when somebody makes a certain level of donation or a certain type of donation or takes a certain advocacy action, I think automation, can save you a lot of time. And like you said, you can have the best technology in the world, but if you don't have the right people in the right positions, then you won't be able to use it. Same thing with automation. You can have the most slick automation technology in your digital solution, but if you haven't thought through what the messages are, what sequence, and how someone moves through that journey, you're not going to get as much out of it. So planning is really key. And it's not just sort of like specific events in the supporter journey, but the ability to take someone from soup to nuts when they enter your program, and you know, what is kind of the top of the ladder, or at what point do you want to consider them, you know, part of your regular universe. Like, not every single person who joins your email list will end up being a major donor who leaves a large part of their estate to your organization in their will. So there has to be some sort of like desired end state for people based on the data that you can get about them. And for some people, they take a lot of action. For some people, you know, it's maybe making them a sustainer. For other people, it's maybe that they just give once a year and reminding them to do that. But anyway, I think automation is the biggest thing I would look for. The second thing I'd say is probably consolidation of technology to make things quick. Because if automation is really going to work, then you need the data to be available to your digital solution either instantaneously or as close to real time as possible if you're integrating with other solutions. So the ability for whatever tool you select to integrate, you know, or to just generate and use that data right away, I think is really important. You know, there's a lot of really good technology on the market these days. So I think people should be searching for time savers and efficacy, I would say, of the tool. And then, you know, right up there, just a shade underneath is ease of use. Because like you said before, you know, if only, you know, really skilled people can use the tool, then it's not actually saving you time, because then those people either can never go on vacation, or your organization grinds to a halt when they're out of the office. So that's what I think. All right, let's close this out with a really tight summary and recommendation. Charlotte, this is the lightning round. What's your top #1 tip for organizations that are looking to change up their technology either right now or this fall?
All right. My tip would be the same thing that I just said earlier about focusing on your people. So don't skimp on your short and long-term plans for adoption. So make sure you've got a training plan in place when you move to a new solution for the short term, to make sure everybody gets ramped up, knows how to use the new features and functionality that you as an organization have invested in. But then also make sure that you've got a plan for continuing to increase that knowledge as new features and functionality are released. Sally, go.
Same thing. I'd say never stop learning. And that's a funny thing to say when we're talking about how do you select new technology, but it really is all about people. And you want people, I think, who are curious and who like using the technology and can discover new things about it that will benefit your organization. And, you know, I think that if you select for the right people and then involve them as stakeholders and decision makers in the process, then you will end up with a good solution. Almost guaranteed. All right, I guess we solved it.
Yeah, mission accomplished.
Well, thank you very much for your time today, and we will see you soon for the next installment of What the Heck?
Bye-bye.